First, let me tell you a few things about Game of Thrones, such as Asia or different countries in which India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh are included. Game of Thrones is also a different world, and its continent. The largest kingdom is Westeros. Apart from this, there are a total of 7 kingdoms here. Each kingdom is managed by its own lord. The king who manages these 7 kingdoms is the king. Now it starts by showing some knights. Actually, there is a big wall around Westeros, which is made to stop people living on the other side, wild animals and evil forces from coming here. And these knights guard this wall. Now these knights go to the other side of the wall to take a tour, where they were stunned to see a strange sight. Because there were a lot of corpses lying in the design, the condition of the dead bodies was worse. Then those corpses come to life on their own. Their face was white, and their eyes were blue, and there was blood on their lips, which made them look very scary. Then a demon who looks like a zombie comes here, who is called a zombie demon, who comes and kills 2 knights mercilessly. The 3rd knight was very scared to see this. He runs away from there and comes to Winterfell, which is actually a kingdom there. And this kingdom is the closest kingdom to that wall. As soon as the knight moved forward, the soldiers here caught him. After that, Knight Stark came here. He is the lord of this kingdom, Winterfell. That is, he guards here. He is the head here. Knight Stark cuts the neck of that knight with his sword, because there were some principles of the knights, like he will never get married. He will always live as a knight, and wherever he lives, he will live. He will never run away from there. And because Knight Stark was feeling that he was rebelling, he ran away. So he killed this knight. Now Knight Stark was going from there with his children. On the way, he meets 6 children of the wolf. Their wolf parents had been killed by someone. Now the mark of Knight Stark's family was of a wolf. That's why he gives the children of 6 wolves to his children. Here he had only 5 children. 2 children were young. They were his stepsons. One of them was named Jon. Now we see the capital of these 7 kingdoms, the biggest city, where the king himself lives. Here the wife of the king was talking to her brother Jaime, that the king's right hand was the king's special man. Suddenly he died for some reason. There in Winterfell, Knight Stark's wife brings a letter to him, in which it was written that the king is coming to the kingdom of Knight Stark. We were shown a place where 2 children of a special generation were living. Special generation because they had some qualities. They had some powers, whose hair was golden. Both the children were young. They were siblings. The girl's name was Daenerys. Their father had ruled these 7 kingdoms for many years. But then a few years ago, Knight Stark and now the king, they made a conspiracy together. They included Jaime, who is also the brother of the king's wife, on which Jaime killed Daenerys' dad, the king, because he was his guard at that time. And now to take revenge on his father, Daenerys' brother wants to get his sister married to the king of the kingdom, because he believed that if my sister Daenerys got married to the king, then his big army will be mine, after which I will attack the capital city and become the king of all the kingdoms. There the king, Knight Stark's kingdom comes. As soon as the king comes, everyone bows down to him in respect. Here another brother of the king's wife was shown, but he was a dwarf, whom the king's wife did not like much, but her brother Jaime loved him very much. The king had come here so that he could make Knight Stark his right-hand man. Here we found out that the king wanted to marry Knight Stark's younger sister, but Knight Stark's son did not like this. That's why he kidnapped his father's sister. First, he did wrong to her and then killed her, because of which the king was very sad. Now the king could not marry Knight Stark's sister, but now wants to get his son married to Knight Stark's daughter. Daenerys got married to the chief, but the behavior of the chief was not good with Daenerys. He used to behave very badly with her, but still, both were living their lives. But because Daenerys did not understand the chief's language, that's why the chief gives 3 gifts to Daenerys. The first thing was 3 books, which were in the language here. The second was a man, who would become Daenerys' translator from now on. That is, he will translate the language of these people, and will tell Daenerys. And the third thing was 3 dragon eggs, which were very big, but with time they became like stones. Knight Stark's younger son was climbing a tower, where he sees Jaime and his sister, the wife of the king, in a very strange condition. Now the child did not go and tell anyone. That's why Jaime throws him down from the tower to kill him. Daenerys was learning the language of her husband, the chief. At the same time, she had a good relationship with her husband. Knight Stark's son does not die because of falling from the tower, but he goes into the coma. But still, Knight Stark was going to the capital city with his 2 daughters, while his stepson, Jon, was going to that big wall to become a knight. Now the king's son started misbehaving with the dwarf. Because of this, the dwarf slapped him 3 times. A man standing next to him, who was actually a soldier of Ned Stark, was watching everything, and his face was burnt. Now the minister comes to meet Ned Stark's wife. In Game of Thrones, the minister is called a very educated person who works for doctors, scientists, and everyone, and she was the special minister of his family. After his death, Jon comes here because he was also about to go. He came here to meet his stepbrother, who had gone into the coma. Here we can see that Ned Stark's wife did not like him, but Jon loved his sisters and brothers, no matter if they were his step-siblings. After which he goes to his younger sister and gifts her a small sword, because she was not like ordinary girls, but she was special. She also wanted to become a warrior. She was brave since childhood. After which Jon starts walking on his way to become a knight, and Ned Stark starts walking on his way. On the way, Jon asks him about his mother. Where is my real mother? And who was she? Ned Stark says that when you return from the journey, then I will tell you about your mother. When Ned Stark and King were sitting in one place, then King got a letter, on which it was written that Daenerys and the king are married. Hearing this, the king got so angry that he orders to kill Daenerys, but Ned Stark does not agree with this, and refuses. On the way, the dwarf was also going with Jon, because she was going near the wall. That's why he also wanted to see the wall closely. Here some criminals were also going with them, because they were going as knights. Now King's son and Ned Stark's daughter were talking to each other, because they were going to get married in the future. But here King's son sees the Ned Stark's younger daughter is playing with a poor boy with a sword, which he did not like at all. He takes his sword and cuts the girl's head. Seeing this, the girl got angry, because that poor boy was her friend. That's why she starts beating King's son, with whom his sister was going to get married. But he gets himself released, and starts beating Ned Stark's daughter after pulling her. But then the girl's wolf comes and bites King's son, which injured him a lot. The sword also slipped from his hand. Then Ned Stark's daughter immediately picks up his sword, throws it in the pond and runs away from there. Now Ned Stark's son, who was in a coma, a man comes to kill him, who had a dagger. Before that, he would have hurt the girl. Here Ned Stark's wife, i.e. the girl's mother, comes and stops him, because she was hiding here at this time. She snatches the dagger from him. Then here his wolf comes and bites that man's neck, due to which his blood flows so much that he dies on the spot. Because of this, Ned Stark's wife also started feeling weird, and she goes to meet her husband Ned Stark. Now because Ned Stark's daughter's wolf had bitten King's son, that's why she drives him away from there, so that no one kills her wolf. But the soldiers catch her and take her to King. Then King's son and his sister themselves lie that her wolf has bitten King's son without talking. They don't tell that King's son had also done a lot of bad. Seeing her sister lying, Ned Stark's younger daughter gets very angry. That's why she starts beating her sister. So here King announces the punishment, that the wolf of Ned Stark's younger daughter should be killed. But because she had driven her wolf away before, so King then orders them to kill her elder sister's wolf. That's why now Ned Stark himself goes and kills his elder daughter's wolf. In a while, Ned Stark reaches the capital city. Here a consul is called to meet him. Here he meets the king's brother, a lord, who takes care of the whole business, and a reporter lord who broadcasts news at different places, who brings all the information and gives it to the king. An old man also meets him, who is the master here. Now Daenerys knows that she is going to be a mother, and her translator conveys all the news to the king. Through the letter, he told the king that Daenerys is married to the chief. Jon has also reached the wall, who was teaching swordplay to the new warriors. His uncle, the brother of Ned Stark, tells him that I am going to the other side of the wall, because I am a ranger, and only a ranger can go to the other side of the wall to take a walk. Now in Winterfell, Ned Stark's son's eyes open, the one who had gone into a coma. When he comes to his senses, he finds out that both his legs are damaged. He did not even remember who had dropped me from the tower. Ned Stark's wife reaches the capital city, where her husband was. She came here and met the lord, with whom she lived in childhood. This lord liked her. Ned Stark's wife thinks that he still likes me. That's why she gets angry at him, because she considered him her younger brother. Now in a little while, Ned Stark also comes here. His wife shows him that dagger, through which that man tried to attack his son. This dagger was made of very special and expensive steel. This steel is considered very precious in the Game of Thrones. Here the Lord tells that this dagger is of the dwarf. That is the brother of the king's wife. But don't get much in these things. That's why Ned Stark sends his wife back to Winterfell. Also, Ned Stark sends a swordsman to his younger daughter to teach her swordplay. Who will teach her swordplay from now? Ned Stark's younger son, who had just come out of a coma, has a dream in which he sees a three-eyed bird, but suddenly his eyes open. In front of him was the stepbrother, who was going to take him to the elder son of the same Ned Stark. And because that child could not walk yet, so to pick him up, a man is called there. Now, a tournament was held in the capital city, because Ned Stark had become the special man of the king's right hand here, while Ned Stark himself goes and meets an old man, because he is the oldest king's right hand here, who later became the king himself, came to know about him, where that old man tells that the king's right hand always used to read a book, which is about the history of Westeros. Saying this, the old man brings that book in front of him, from which Ned Stark also starts reading, because he wanted to know, why did the last king's right hand take so much interest in this book? Then Ned Stark goes and meets a boy, because the right hand also used to come to meet him a lot. Or by looking at his face, Ned Stark finds out that this boy is now the stepson of the first king. Anyway, the tournament begins, where a brother of a burnt soldier and a swordsman come to compete with each other. Their competition was that both have to make each other fall from the horse, and whoever fell from the horse first will lose. Whoever made him fall will win. Now the burnt soldier's brother was very dangerous, because he had burned his brother's face. As soon as their competition began, the soldier's brother's swordsman directly hits the neck with a rod, due to which he was so injured that immediately falls down. His blood began to flow quickly, because of which the swordsman dies there. When Ned Stark's wife went to Winterfell, she sees the dwarf there. That's why she calls her soldiers and gets him caught. Now the next match in the tournament was between a prince and the burnt soldier's brother. As soon as the competition began, the prince throws him down with a sword easily. Now because the soldier's brother had lost. Because of this, he was so angry that he immediately stood up and started killing the prince. The burnt soldier, on his brother's action, was very angry. He quickly comes to the field and stops his brother. He started fighting him. Seeing this, the king was very angry. He immediately stood up, screamed, and went to stop the fight. When the soldier's brother left there in anger, when Ned Stark talks to the reporter lord, then he gets a lot of information here. The reporter lord tells that the first king's right hand, about which we are collecting information, his death was not natural. In fact, he was poisoned and killed. Ned Stark's daughter, while chasing the cat, had come to a very big cave, where she gets a lot of big skeletons of the dragon, because the family of Ned Stark can ride the dragon and could control them. But surprisingly, no dragon had been seen here yet. Now the king sets up a council, in which he also calls Ned Stark, and immediately orders to kill Daenerys, because he knew that she was going to be a mother. That's why he was afraid that she, along with her other kingdoms, can attack the capital city. But Ned Stark opposes this. When the king did not listen to him, he was stubborn. Then he left his king's right-hand position and left from there. He was about to pack his things and leave. That's when the Lord comes to him, who introduces him to a woman, with whom the king's right hand was also found before his death. And this woman was the mother of the first king's stepson. Ned Stark wanted to find out, why was the last king's right hand showing so much interest in the first king's stepson? In the capital city, Jaime surrounds Ned Stark with the help of his soldiers, because he had known that my dwarf brother has been kidnapped by Ned Stark's wife. Now as soon as Ned Stark's soldiers move forward, Jaime starts fighting with them. Whoever was coming forward, he was killing everyone with swords, by putting a sword in someone's chest, in someone's eyes, and just like that, he killed all the soldiers of Ned Stark, and he himself started fighting with Ned Stark. Here the swordplay continued for a long time between them, but just then Jaime's soldier comes and puts a sword in Ned Stark's leg, due to which he was so injured that he immediately falls unconscious there. When his eyes opened, he finds the king and his wife in front of him. Here his wife says something bad about Ned Stark, due to which the angry king slaps her and makes Ned Stark the right hand of the king again. Daenerys puts the dragon's egg in in the fire. Then as soon as she started picking it up, she and her servant come and catch the egg, so that his hand does not burn. But both the hands of the hero and his servant burn, because Daenerys was unharmed. In the jungle, the sons of Ned Stark and her stepson both were riding a horse. In the meantime, the younger son who had come out of the coma, he separates from them, where then some strange people come and catch him. These people were wild, who had come from the other side of the wall. Before that, they catch the child. Here both his brothers come and kill the wild man by hitting an arrow, but catching the wild boy, they make him a slave. When the dwarf was presented in front of everyone, then he says that a man from my side will fight with your soldier. If I win, then you will have to leave me. Everyone agreed to this. But he was a dwarf. How will he fight? Everyone was thinking the same and laughing. Where then a soldier came in front, who decides to fight on the side of the dwarf. When the king was on the hunt, because of drinking alcohol, he was very intoxicated, and he was also getting sick. But his companion was still giving alcohol to the king. The soldier who was fighting on the side of the dwarf, he teaches the other soldier a good lesson. After beating him a lot, he puts a sword on his neck, due to which his blood is very fast, after which the dwarf soldier picks him up and throws the other soldier into the ditch. Now because he had won, so the wife of Ned Stark and her sister had to leave the dwarf. Ned Stark was reading some books, from which he starts thinking one thing, that the king of this time, no one in his family has golden hair. Not even the king himself has, but he has black. But his 3 children have golden hair like Jaime's. Here, Daenerys' brother was scaring Daenerys and her husband by showing them a sword, because he wanted that they both give him the crown of gold. Because of this, Daenerys' husband got angry, and he melts the gold and puts it on the head of Daenerys' brother, due to which his head started to melt. He was in so much pain. He died in agony on the spot. Now we see Jaime, the king's wife and the dwarf's dad, who comes to Jaime and gives him a lot of soldiers, and sends him to save his brother dwarf. In the capital city, Ned Stark tells the king's wife that I have found out the relationship between you and your brother Jaime. And when the king returns, then I will tell him about this wrong relationship. We see the king, who was lying on the bed in a sick condition, because when he had gone on the hunt, so there was a lot of injury, because of drinking alcohol. His condition was deteriorating. That's why he calls Ned Stark to him and makes him write a letter, in which he makes Ned Stark the protector of the whole place, the one who protects him. It means when the king dies, Ned Stark will rule the whole kingdom. When the king's son grows up, he'll get the throne. It means he'll be the next king. But Ned Stark, instead of his son, writes about the real heir of the kingdom. He doesn't write that he'll get the throne. Instead, he writes that the one who deserves will become the king. Lord Commander near the wall makes Jon his slave, the one who'll serve him after today. He'll cook food for them. Jon doesn't like this, because he wanted to become a ranger. In the capital city, Ned Stark calls the Lord to him. The peacekeeper people here, those who maintain the peace, tell them to accompany me. The son of the king calls Ned Stark into the throne room, where he learned that my dad, the king, is killed. I'm the king of that place, and he takes the throne. Later, Ned Stark shows the king the last letter that the king had written, in which it was written that Ned Stark will remain the protector of this government till the time when the king's son is grown up. Only the one who deserves will get the throne. The king's wife wasn't agreed with this letter, and she tears this letter. Seeing this, Ned Stark tells the peacekeepers standing there about the relationship between the king's wife and Jaime. The peacekeepers have the opposite impact of this. Listening to this, they get angry, but they attack the soldiers of Ned Stark. They kill all the soldiers by stabbing their swords into them. There was an atmosphere of war. Along with this, Lord, who was loyal at first, he cheats on Ned Stark and puts a sword on his neck. There was an atmosphere of war outside, because the soldiers of Jaime attacked the soldiers of Ned Stark, and were getting heavier on them. The guards hold the younger daughter of Ned Stark, but a swordsman sends the girl away from there. Now 2 dead bodies come from the other side of the wall. These were the dead bodies of the knights, who went to the other side of the wall with the brother of Ned Stark. There was no whereabouts of his brother yet. His horse alone returned. Lord Commander tells Jon, your dad Ned Stark has been captured in the capital city by being called a traitor. Hearing this, Jon gets angry. He talks about going to the capital city to save his dad, on which the Lord Commander reminds him of the promises of the knight. According to them, a knight doesn't have any family. They shouldn't care about what is happening in the 7 kingdoms. Now, a dead body near the wall comes to life. That comes quite scary and attacks Lord Commander. Now, Jon comes to save Lord Commander. He cuts the hands of the corpse with his sword. The hand fell down. Then he stabs a sword into the stomach of the corpse. But it remains unharmed, so Jon lights a fire by throwing a light at him. He burns and the corpse burnt, taking advantage of this. Jon runs after taking Lord Commander. There many people of the chief begin to get angry with him, because he began to agree a lot with Daenerys, and she was rebellious. A boy attacks Daenerys' husband with a sword. As a result of it, a cut was there on his chest. He started to bleed. He got so much angry with this. He holds the boy and broke his neck bones. As a result of this, he died immediately. The dwarf reached his dad with his companions. His dad was preparing to fight with Ned Stark. He includes his dwarf son and his friends in his fight. The king's son retires a senior soldier by calling him old. From now onward, you won't work for us. The soldier gets so angry with this. He left his designation and went from there. Later, the king's son replaced Jaime with him. Now, the eldest daughter of Ned Stark sits in front of the king's son and seeks forgiveness that he leaves his dad Ned Stark. The king's son says, "I promise that I'll leave you and your dad, Ned Stark, only if he confesses himself as a traitor in front of everyone." The mom of the eldest daughter of Ned Stark comes to her, because they were ready for the war. They've made their whole team, and after taking them, they reach the bridge. To cross the bridge, they need the permission of their leader. When the wife of Ned Stark goes to take permission, he says, "I'll only grant permission to cross the bridge when my son will marry your daughter. Your younger daughter will have to marry our boy after growing up." To which she agrees. Now, he grants permission. Jon has saved the life of Lord Commander. He was very happy with him, and gives him his old family sword as a gift. The sword that was stabbed at Daenerys' husband's chest. He was quite injured, and his condition was getting worse. He gets so weak that he falls from his horse. Seeing this, his people think strange, and begin to think about betrayal. They consider a strong man as their leader, not a weak one. Seeing this, Daenerys meets a woman there, who was a magician and knows about the magic. Daenerys tells her to cure her husband. She tells her that she'll cure her husband, but you've to sacrifice a life in its return. Otherwise, he'll die. Later, she calls the king's horse and kills him. The next day, Jaime's dad's camp was attacked. He bravely fought against the army and won the war. Later, he learns that it was a conspiracy of Ned Stark's son. He had called 2,000 soldiers there to attack. So they distract and he goes to catch Jaime. It happens exactly the same. Ned Stark's son easily defeats the soldiers of Jaime and captures Jaime. After injuring him, he makes him his slave. In the capital city, Ned Stark, to save his daughters, agreed with the king's son, and confessed himself a traitor in front of them all. But the dishonest son of the king goes against his promise and doesn't forgive him, but he tells his soldier to cut his throat, because he is a traitor, and he dies in this way. The daughter of Ned Stark sees this all in the crowd. She feels sad. Then her uncle takes her aside and cuts her hair, so no one could recognize her, and her life can be saved. The son and the wife of Ned Stark come to know that the king has killed Ned Stark, from which both of them feel sad. His son had gone mad in anger and sadness. North End soldiers separated the northern area from the other kingdom. They make Ned Stark's son their new king. Daenerys gives birth to a dead baby. This was all done by the magician. Because of what, she gives birth to a dead child, and her husband's life was saved. When Daenerys goes to her husband, only his eyes were opened. Neither he could speak nor he could move. It means he was like a corpse. It comes to light that the magician has done this because her husband used to tease everyone. Because her husband was like a corpse, so unwillingly, she kills her husband by suffocating him with a pillow. She prepares to burn his dead body. She puts the dragon egg inside the first and sits there. After some time, when the fire blows out, some people come to check. There we see a surprising scene. Because of the fire, her clothes were burnt, but Daenerys was unharmed. Not only this, but 3 dragons hatch from the eggs and sit on the shoulders of Daenerys. Seeing this, the translator gets quite worried. He and some people sit on their knees in front of Daenerys. They bow in front of her because they learn that she is special. The first season ends with this.